His name was Dan. I met Dan as a part of Respect Speakers program at St. Louis Psychiatric Hospital, I guess about 4 years ago. And Dan and I had the privilege of co-speaking and telling our respective stories on 3 different occasions. The first one was at St. Louis University to a class of social studies students, or social work students. We both told our stories there. The second one was at Washington University to a class of students of social work students. And then the third was at the hospital itself in what's called the Dome Building to a group of new employees. Dan's story is particularly moving and touching. It's a little bit different from the stories of the rest of us who have been prepared to speak for Respect Speakers, because his involved more of a physical illness than an emotional or mental stress. Dan was in middle school and aspiring to be an architect. Very, very, very bright guy. High educational and career aspirations. While he was in middle school, he developed a brain tumor. Which of course called for the necessity of surgery. Surgery was performed on Dan. After the surgery, Dan had to relearn all of his life skills. He had extensive physical therapy, during which time he had to relearn how to walk, how to talk, and just the basic activities of daily living. He said it was a period of about 9 months that he had physical therapy. He was in the hospital, recovering from the surgery. So of course, his ideal of becoming an architect was somewhat compromised, but he didn't give up on it. He did go to college and pursue a master's degree, and I believe he got a master's degree in architecture. But the problem was that when he had the surgery, the brain surgery, he lost his short-term memory. So he did get through school, he did pursue the degree, but employment was a different matter, because he didn't have the capacity, the short-term memory to carry out the very demanding task of an architect. He became extremely depressed, he became suicidal, and he tried to take his life. And it was during this time that he entered into counseling, and the counselor brought Dan to an acceptance of his limitations. He said that this was the greatest awakening possible for him. So he then pursued another course of study. Today, Dan works with autistic children. And when I heard him tell his story the first 2 times, I really didn't get the connection. But when I heard him tell the story the 3rd time, it dawned on me that Dan recovered, and now he says, now I am happy. And in the meantime, he lost his marriage, but he has a relationship with his daughter. He says, I'm happy now. He has, in working with a part-time job with autistic children. I'm very contented. That is what he would tell you. It occurred to me as he was relating this story for the 3rd time that Dan became happy and contented because he found a strength that he may not have realized was there before. It was almost as though Dan was predestined to work with children with intellectual challenges. Who better to work with children with intellectual challenges than someone who has experienced intellectual challenges? I'm convinced that he would not have found this path had he not gone through the struggle of regaining his mind and regaining his capacity after he had the surgery. Dan found something, as I said before, that he didn't know he had. He found a purpose in his strengths. He found hope in his strengths. And after I heard him speak the 3rd time, I was able to share that with him. And he thanked me. And he said that he still sometimes goes back into mourning for the fact that he couldn't become an architect, but that Now, most of his life and most of his thinking is engaged in the reality that he's living his strength, he's living his hope, and he's living his joy. And he's living it through his working with autistic children. Something he would not have been able to do had he not experienced the mental challenges following this surgery. The moral of this story: we find our happiness, we find our hope, and we find our joy in living with our strengths and in living in gratitude.